Hello, hands, voice, and we're back with the Zoom L6max, this time for a quick look at what you can do with the new submix output. Long story short, it solves one of my biggest routing issues with the original L6, as not only can you send a completely different mix to a bandmate or an external device, but you can also use it as a stereo aux send, finally giving us a workaround for the otherwise mono-only dedicated aux sends on both the L6 and L6max. I touched on this briefly in my L6 versus L6max comparison video, but I figured it was worth going over in more detail because it can be quite useful. Of course, I'm just doing this for fun. I bought the gear myself, and making tutorials helps me learn too, so it's win-win. I've used the original L6 a lot in the past year. In fact, I'm using it right now to route audio from the Max to my phone, as this Android is too old to work with the Max, but I digress. It's a great little submixer and recorder for live sets that you'll never listen to again, of course. However, because of the mono aux sends, working with stereo sources from a sampling NFX context was always tricky. The workaround, as detailed in a prior video that I'll link to somewhere, was to crisscross your stereo sources across two channels and send each to a different aux send. It works, but you burn channels quickly or end up desperately merging different stereo instruments together in ways you might not want. I've done this at several gigs. It's fine in a pinch, but I'm over being pinched at this point. Enter the L6max with its stereo submix output. Traditionally, a submix is used to curate a separate version of the overall mix for a specific performer, like a drummer who needs to also hear a click track or a guitarist who just wants more of themselves. So how does it work? You just press the dedicated submix button, then dial up the amount of each channel you'd like to send to the submix output. You can also set the submix to pre or post master fader depending on your needs. And if you don't need the submix, just flip this toggle to master and it acts as an extra master output for a second set of headphones, etc. Of course, similar to the aux sends, there are limitations. As far as I can tell, for instance, you can't have separate volume levels for the sound pads between the master and the submix. If you want the sound pads playing through the master, they will also play through the submix, and vice versa. Also, you can't apply the Zoom's internal effects to the submix, only to the master output. As a quick example, you're currently hearing my voice via the main output, but there's also music coming in via USB 2. It's just muted in the master. If I press submix, you can see the USB channel is dialed up somewhat. So by toggling this switch from master to submix, you can now hear some sweet tunes from the Baymud Bandcamp page as well. Now you've got one mix with just my voice that you can send out to the PA or wherever via the main output, and another featuring some lovely background music for your own headphones. In traditional submix uses, that signal would go out to the headphones of the bandmate who needed it and end there. But what if you just brought that same signal back in via one of the stereo channels on the L6max? Congratulations, you've just created a stereo aux send and return. Let's go over a quick example. I've cluttered the desk with gear and have the stereo outputs of the Deluge going into channel 8 of the L6max. We've also got the Yamaha Reface CP with its lovely stereo tremolo going into channel 5. Now let's say you wanted to sample that lovely stereo tremolo in a device like the Deluge that can do stereo sampling. You'd think you'd want to use the aux sends, but as discussed, those are mono. And before you ask, no, using both aux sends does not give you stereo. The L6 and L6max aux sends each sum to mono, which is why you end up needing that crisscross trick mentioned earlier if you only have the L6. So we'll use the stereo submix instead. Simply press submix and then dial up how much of the CP you'd like to send out the submix to the Deluge, then hit record and play on the Deluge while playing something on the CP. Simple enough. Now I'll bring up the level of the Deluge. And there you go. Luscious stereo sampled goodness. And because the submix is handling the stereo sends, the mono aux sends are free for other mono gear, like this Baklengs granular pedal, which we've got coming into channel 6. Now, we can send the CP to it via aux1 by dialing it up here, while also routing the fully wet return signal of the Baklengs to the submix to join in the sampling madness. Let's try it. So while I'd still love to have seen more flexibility in the dedicated aux sends, the stereo submix is a very welcome addition. Does the submix output entice you at all? Would you use it for a traditional monitor mix or for stereo sampling like this? Let me know in the comments. More on the L6 Max to come, and thanks for watching.